don't go around thinking used cars are just, depending on what era you're looking at. If you're looking at anything moderately recent,
Right.
used cars are actually going to require the same kind of question asking as a brand new car would. Like when you, for example, go to look for a car from 2020-ish for, for one of your sons,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to be asking them, so what about its adaptive cruise control system? Does
Yep.
its lane keep assist system have automatic steering intervention, or
Mm-hmm.
is it only a warning?
Yep.
Does its blind what at what speed does the blind spot monitoring begin working? Because those don't work down to 0 miles an hour.
Exactly.
And you'll want to get in the car and see how big is the screen for the backup camera. Does
Yep.
the backup camera have those guidance lines? When the cameras, like, they'll sometimes turn
Yes.
those lines on screen.
Yes.
Well, not every car does that.
Now I have way more questions about that companion app in the used car market.
And so, yeah, how can you make sure that that a previous user's companion app data is
Yes.
is not present on the vehicle, and that yours, or I guess your sons, will not be on there
That's
when
right.
when you inevitably sell it as the second owner, or the third
Exactly.
owner or something.
Get ready for a dynamic episode of Features Talk.
Welcome back to the Features Talk Podcast, where we put the power of vehicle tech back in your hands. I am your host, Lisa Bailey, and joining me as always is our in-house product specialist and co-host, Luke Versput. Welcome
Hello,
back,
everyone.
Luke.
Yep, yep. Another day, another great episode. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. So this is going to be an exciting talk about it's basically going to be the automotive equivalent of times a changing.
Exactly. Exactly. That was a great statement because I was going to say today we are challenging the myth that new is always better. I mean that's just like the culture, right? Let's get everything new, and that makes things better. But if we think about this from like safety standards and the federal regulations that are now being changed and developed in the automotive world, it looks like the standards and the bar for the standards are raising, and
Hmm.
that is leveling the playing field with used cars just as much as it is new cars. And so what happens is, when a used car vehicle is just as capable as a new one, that's a whole different conversation because you typically don't see that. Back in the day when you would purchase a new car, you could, I mean, if unless that was you found a similar car in the used car market, I mean, new was always better. But things
Yeah.
are a changing, like you just said, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of a different story now. And uh, and that's been one of the exciting things to see in the car market more recently. And just to kind of clarify, throughout the entirety of this episode, as we're talking about, used cars
Yeah,
versus new cars, which one is more advantageous than the other? Just to kind of lay a ground rule, nothing we're talking about is which is a better financial decision.
right,
None of this we're touching on. Is it financially better to get a used car? Is it
right.
financially better to get a new one? Financing, that's not going to be our focus. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
what we are going to be looking at is that the delta between, the new car feeling
Yep.
like the high-tech new one and the
Right.
used car feeling like a simplistic piece of old metal is narrowing dramatically now.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's kind of interesting to think about that. Like, everyone always talks about, it's always a conversation of, oh, technology moves so fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even
Hmm.
just in stuff like phones, right? Or computers, like technology moves so fast, right?
Yeah.
But and of course that's true in cars, because then you're talking about both, like digital technology, like cars having screens and things like that, but also like mechanical automotive engineering technology.
Oh yeah.
So it's like automotive, like in the car world, it's like this double whammy of like, how do you keep up with all of it?
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
the Features Talk podcast is actually how you keep up with it. But anyway, um, so it's kind of interesting that we always talk about that with new cars, but it never gets talked about with used cars, because there's
Yeah,
always been this perception like, oh, used cars are just, those aren't moving forward anymore.
that's right.
Those are old. That was then, and that's not moving forward.
Yep.
But when you look at that, the fact that new cars technologically move forward so quickly inherently means that though that bunch of cars as used cars
Correct.
will have moved forward way faster than the old ones did.
Yep.
And so that leads to this question of like, how much of like, which one do you trust more?
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you gonna trust a new car just because it's newer,
Yep.
because it has the new model year on it? Because it's we're in 2025 and it's a 2026 model, and
Exactly.
or
Because that's the way we think.
right, or yeah, like seeing its name in lights, right, like on
Yeah.
advertisements or whatever. Um, and just because it's new, or because it actually has newer technology to really set itself apart from used cars. And
Exactly.
so that's one of the big things to consider, is that when it used to be that, a new car, and I'm thinking about like the first vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, the first vehicle sold in the United States to ever have adaptive cruise control of some kind was the BMW 7 Series. I forget the
Mm,
exact year, but an early 2000s 7 Series.
yeah.
Um, and that car actually debuted a ton of technology, but and automatic cruise control, or adaptive cruise control, was one of them. And at the time, a used car of several years back would have been a 90s car.
Right.
And now
Right.
recording this in 2025, and to just hear the term a 90s car seems like, wow, that's real. That's
That's
like,
really old.
yeah, like you find that, if maybe not at a junkyard, but like you find that on like the side of the road, you find that on Craigslist or something
Yeah.
like that. Like a used car, even like a nice used car dealer, they're not holding on to 90s cars. But like at the
Yeah.
time, that was a 90s car, and the hot new thing was the 7 Series, albeit that was a very expensive car, but
Hmm.
still, um, that would have seemed space age. That new BMW 7 Series with that kind of technology would have seemed space age back then. Uh,
Right.
and because the old cars, the 90s cars, you know what they all had? Cassette players,
Yep.
right? So I mean, then you're basically going from, it's not that CD players didn't exist in cars back then, but like the vast majority of cars had cassette players.
You sure
And
did.
now a car that can adjust its speed on its own using a smart cruise control system. What?
Yep. Exactly.
So then that would have been like, oh, putting aside concerns of reliability or anything like then, oh, that's the new one. That's
Yep.
clearly the pick if you've got the money. But
Exactly.
now when we look at cars from a few years back, put it this way, a 2018 car,
Hmm.
that is an almost 8-year-old car,
Yep.
right? That's about to be it's like a 7.5 to almost 8-year-old car. Well, that car is going to be guaranteed to have a backup camera, because backup
100%
cameras became federally mandated in
mandated.
2018.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, and it's like, well, now they all have backup cameras. And there were a lot of
Hmm.
cars back then that had smart cruise control.
Hmm.
Obviously, airbags have been standard for decades. Seatbelt, 3-point safety belts have been standard for decades. And so,
Yeah.
lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, these have all been, if not standard, really, really common for these past few years. And now that's been narrowing quite a bit.
It
Um,
definitely has. And I see that just as a customer myself and a consumer myself, but hearing some of the conversations that are happening because of the collisions and the crashes that are happening on the roads,
yeah,
now safety has become more front and center because I mean safety was always a top priority in it for auto manufacturers and for OEMs. For as long as I can remember, even in commercials, you will hear that safety is a part of their mission, is a part of their culture. And so now safety is tied to technology. It's tied to certain advanced technologies that now assist the driver. So when you think about the need for safety, that's for everybody.
yep,
That's not just for people that can afford it anymore. It's for everyone. And so
yep,
that's, from what I'm seeing, that's exactly that gap that you talked about, Luke. I mean, it has narrowed. You would it's not as prevalent now, like you said, because it's almost like a transition. The new cars have to come out, and then those cars have to be retired by those owners, and then they will get new cars, and then those once new cars are now in the used car market. So just because some of these advanced technologies that we're talking about and have previously talked about are on more of the newer model cars, a lot of listeners probably have not experienced some of the technology. I'm pretty sure automatic, emergency braking. Hopefully they haven't experienced that because,
yeah.
but if you have, thank God for it. I'm pretty sure it helped, when
Oh
it
yeah.
to, but um Luke, are you more likely to trust a new car because it's newer or because it has tech?
So that would be very much on a case by case basis, on a car by car basis. Um, Nowadays, I would be. Um, the thing is, the newer cars are almost always going to have the tech, but um, I mean, I would think my trust in a newer car, or my preference of a newer car would be because it has some piece of technology that the old cars don't have.
Exactly.
Like even a more recent used car doesn't have.
Right.
Um, and so from a technological standpoint, that would be the pick.
Yep.
Um, and when it comes to like looking at the vehicles as a customer, um, we've brought up in several times that it's up to each person, each customer to do their due diligence, do their research on the vehicle. If, after the technology thing, then I would be looking at things like, well, how tried and true mechanically was, the old powertrain versus the new one.
Right.
If there's a change there, and there isn't always, but I've fallen into the trap sometimes of like, just wanting the new thing because it's new.
Yeah.
But over time I've kind of, I feel like I've kind of outgrown that a little bit. Like, like having, you know, the newest thing doesn't necessarily carry as much gravity for me anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so it would have to be, for me, at least looking at a newer car, it would have to be, does it have the actual technological goods to
Yeah.
back it up?
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Before when I shopped for vehicles, I mean, yeah, when I was younger, a teenager, a new car, I mean, okay, this is something that is not, I don't know if it's common. Maybe other people can relate to this, but I remember when I had an older model car and I would turn on the signal left and right, right? And when you turn the signal, it was this loud clunky.
Yep.
It was very okay. And I remember like getting into a couple of my friends' cars and their parents had the newer cars. And when they would put the signal on, it was like silent. It was like this, you would hear like this faint sound, but I thought that was like so cool. So, like when I was younger, it was looking at what I didn't have in my car. And
Yep.
and most of the stuff I didn't have, it was in the newer car. So naturally, like I, tended to want the newer car. But now that I'm a mom, I'm looking at the technology. And because I know that these newer vehicles, some of them are in the used car market, I probably, if it's a 2020 and up, I would look at both new and used
Yeah,
because I
I
know
would
that that
too. Absolutely.
technology is there. So, and that I guess the thinking kind of changes when you start to shop, and that actually kind of leans into one of the things I wanted to call out with is the shift driven by the regulations. And so, customers they search for purchasing their vehicles using sometimes the top safety picks by the Illinois Institute of Highway Safety. They want to know what that safety score is. And before technology was so prevalent in vehicles, especially advanced driver assistance technologies, consumers would want to know, how is a car going to protect me in a crash? So we're looking at airbags. How many airbags does it have? And so that was, the hot topic back then. But now we're looking at crash avoidance. How do we mitigate? How do we reduce the accident from happening altogether? So, does the
Yep.
car have automatic emergency braking? Does it have lane keeping assist? And those are now part of that score. So, you even see the technology integrating in the way that consumers shop, and large regulatory bodies are backing this.
Hmm. Yep, exactly. And that's been an interesting thing to see how it's been interesting to see how the IIHS um and also NHTSA have kind of have gone about, excuse me, rating the safety of newer cars, because it used to be, again, we look back at like the idea of like 90s cars or even
Yeah,
before that. It was just the kind of the prevailing thought was like, well, if an accident's going to happen, it's just going to happen, so we need to see that when it inevitably is just going to happen, how's the metal, how's the structure going to protect
exactly.
the occupant, because, well, it's a car and it's
Hmm.
this few thousand-pound thing going at this. There's obviously no way to prevent the accident. So
Right.
when we test these cars, let's make tons of them, throw
Mm.
them into a wall and film them in slow motion and see how do they do that. Well,
Yeah.
that is obviously still important. Um, that is still as much of a part of the safety testing as it ever has been. But now, like you said, now there's a whole big conversation of, well, now we have all these safety systems to actually prevent
Yep.
the contact from ever happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like I said, when people think of like an accident, everyone, just usually just because it gets, showcased in media so much,
Right.
you think of like, the enormous big hitting accidents and stuff, the ones that are really dramatic. But like, when you think about it, some of the most important ones to prevent have been, the ones that have been decreased by, like I mentioned, backup cameras becoming standard,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so that's a big thing that they're rating on, and obviously backup cameras are standard now, but now it's getting into things like uh lane keep assist, blind spot
Mm-hmm.
monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
Smart cruise control is still not unanimous on all vehicles, but it's very common. Um, and these are features now that actually play into a car's safety ratings, when it used to be that so few cars had them that it wouldn't really make that much.
Exactly. Exactly.
But what that means now for people looking for a vehicle, and this is something that I know you especially could speak on as a parent with it's about to be a couple,
Mm-hmm.
younger drivers,
Mm-hmm.
um, is that now when you look at used cars, the used cars are also gonna have also been tested under that same philosophy
Yes.
of like safety features preventing accidents. Where,
Yep.
if you had been shopping for a used car in the early 2000s, your used car would be a 90s car, and like
Right.
automatic emergency braking, please, you know,
Yeah.
for, forget it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and that wouldn't have even been a thought on anyone's mind back then. But
Yeah.
but now, like you said, if your personal preference is to look at 2020 or newer, then yeah, I mean, those are all going to be like, does the car have lane keep assist? Does it have
Yep.
blind spot monitoring? And that is now just as much of the safety ratings as 3-point safety belts and airbags in front of you.
Exactly. Well, like you said, it's the standard. I mean, manufacturers now, what used to be part of the upsell, what used to be part of the luxury package, it's now standard. And it's coming on base trims, which is like, I mean, leveling the playing field. And so
Hmm.
obviously I've been dabbling with Kia. And so, I've been a Kia owner for quite some time now. And the amount of safety features that they offer on the standard trim is wonderful. I
Yeah.
mean, it's absolutely amazing. And so, I want to dive into a little bit about looking at a few of these brands. Like, what is coming standard now when we're thinking about ADAS and we're thinking about a base trim? Luke, when you're looking at like, some of the top players, what is coming standard now that our listeners need to be aware of? And that will kind of, affect how they purchase and how they buy.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, obviously there's way too, I mean, we could eat up someone's entire week going through
Uh-huh.
what's standard on every single brand. But
Yep.
um the thing is, throughout doing the Features Talk podcast, the questions about brands that we've gotten the most are, we get the most questions about Toyota, Honda, Kia, and then of course Tesla.
Yep.
um and so we decided to kind of focus on these because this is what most of our listeners have asked us about. And
Hmm.
so that these seem to be the lion's share of it. And that's of course, we admittedly we are leaving out the, thousands upon thousands of Fords and
Yes.
Chevrolets and
Yes.
Subarus and so on and so forth. But um so one of the big ones is Toyota. And Toyota's success obviously is, I don't want to say it's dependent on, but a big part of Toyota's success comes from just how much of a legacy they've built on
Hmm.
on building, um if not the most technologically advanced cars, which they still are not, um, incredibly reliable, easy to use cars. And
Absolutely.
so the thing is now with the rising standards of safety features, it has Toyota has actually had to rise to the occasion there. And so Toyota's system is called Safety Sense,
Hmm.
and I believe the one they're on now is called Safety Sense 3.0, and it includes, pretty much the kind of the normal greatest hits, right? It is automatic emergency braking. It even has auto high beams, things like lane
Hmm.
departure alert, um, and some of them even have adaptive cruise. And so this is a case where, and this is a thing to kind of make sure that our listeners do your research on when you look at the car and especially test drive it. You know, wherever you're getting the car sold to, ask, does its lane keep assist? Does it just alert you if you're going outside the lane, but you can still go, or does it have active intervention?
Hmm.
This is a
Hmm.
thing that most Toyota's vehicles actually will sound warnings, but they won't actually do steering correction.
Mm.
The, um, And so that's not true of every single Toyota model. Some of the newer ones, from what I've seen, like the new Sequoia, for example, which
Yeah.
is not a cheap vehicle, and it's enormous, but but from what I've seen, it has one of the best automatic lane centering technologies. So
Hmm.
some of the newer ones do have it,
Yeah.
but again, if we're looking at used cars from a few years back, they're going to have things like this, but they might not do automatic correction for you. Another big one that we get is Honda.
Hmm.
And so Honda definitely has more of a more of a pretense of sport about them. Um, the Civic Si and things like that. And
Right.
Honda has a much more of a big racing and a big history in motorsports than Toyota does. Um, but when it comes to their road cars,
Hmm.
there's this called Honda Sensing Suite, and
Hmm.
so it's a lot of the same things. And again, if these all start to sound familiar and kind of like the same for each one, it's because the
The standard.
IIHS has been grading on these, and so they've all been including them, right?
Yep.
Emergency braking, and then also adaptive cruise control on certain models. Um, Honda's lane system is called road departure mitigation,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I think is a bit of a wordy way to say it, but that's what they call it. And what's cool about theirs is that is actually a slightly separate system from their lane keeping
Uh-huh.
assist.
Uh-huh.
And so Honda's lane keeping assist actually is looking for like the painted lines on the road, which of course most of them do. But interestingly, a lot of lane keep assist systems don't actually know how to look for a one painted line on the left and then the edge of the road like asphalt going to
Right.
dirt on the right side. But Honda's road departure mitigation actually senses more for that specifically, so that if you're on like a two-lane road, then if you start to drift out the lane to the right, it can help prevent that.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say probably as far as like just what's included standard, I would say the biggest heavy hitter right now is Kia, and also know that we're equal including Hyundai in this as well.
Oh yeah.
So this would be Kia slash Hyundai because they're both under the same
Hmm.
enormous, umbrella company. Um, and so I usually actually, if you really look into it, usually the biggest degree of separation between a Hyundai and similar Kia model is
Hmm.
honestly the aesthetics.
Mm.
Um, so safety wise, just know that if for anyone out there who's driving a Hyundai, this equally applies to you.
Yeah.
So Kia's system is called Kia DriveWise, and I brought this up before because I am the proud owner of a Kia Soul.
Hmm.
I'm on my third one. It's my favorite vehicle, and so Kia DriveWise is Kia's selection of is as their collection of safety systems, um, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, blind spot warning, the usual.
Yeah.
Kia calls their uh oh, what is it? Their automatic emergency braking forward collision avoidance assist.
Uh-huh. They all have their
the
own
the
name.
the brands will do anything to set their names
Yes,
apart. I
they
mean,
will.
just and so I think one of the biggest value propositions um, in both new or used cars has been the Kia Forte.
Mm.
Um, and so, Lisa, I know what you have is the slightly larger version of the
Yep.
Forte, or the slightly more upscale version, which is the Kia Optima.
Yep.
Um, and and so the Forte it's been incredible to have like the Forte and they don't make the Forte or the Optima anymore, but like when the Forte was new, I mean, that was a car you could get starting at like 20
Yeah.
or even in some trims even below, and it had lane keep assist and it had automatic emergency braking and of course backup cameras are standard. I mean, like that's
Yep.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's the package.
it's not every safety system out there, but 20
Yeah.
for a brand new car. And so
Yes.
now nowadays, um, what you're going to be seeing is the new Kia K5, which is the newest version of Lisa's car, the Optima, and the one that I've been seeing constantly. I mean, I swear I see 5 of them a day, which is the new Kia K4.
Mm.
The K4 is the new version of the Forte, and I saw a report that for the second half of 2024,
Hmm.
because we're talking about this like early-ish 2025,
Right.
for the latter half of 2024, the Kia K4 was the best-selling model in their entire lineup.
I'm not
Um,
surprised.
and so it's really caught on. And you know why? Because at its base model with
Hmm.
hubcaps, cloth seats, and manual adjusting seats and power operated nothing except the windows and locks,
Hmm.
it has adaptive cruise control.
Yep.
And like, and I honestly, when that car came out, I saw that, I'm like, okay, automatic cruise, fully adaptive cruise control with like stop and go, even
Yes,
down to 0 miles an hour, is starting at like 21,000. Get out of here. Like,
exactly.
and then you start to think like, okay, this is starting as an expensive car.
Yep.
This as a used car is going to be like a a 14, a 15 car. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
you're gonna be in the teens, and then I have to imagine for moms like yourself, when you're looking at, oh, I could get my, like, especially if you find one with like higher miles, you could probably get
Mm-hmm.
closer to like the tens or so.
Yep.
Um, we'll see how the used car market shapes up with other things going on in the world. But anyway,
Yes.
you know, um, I mean, I have to imagine as a mom, if you're looking at, I could get something in like the teens
Oh yeah.
with that set of safety features. I'm like, geez, where do I sign? Right. And so
Absolutely.
that one, also the SUVs, the Sportage, Seltos, Telluride, all the bigger ones, the Sorento. And it's amazing. Kia has done one of the best jobs of having a lot of these safety features standard on their trims. Fully
Yes.
adaptive cruise control is, I think there's only two remaining vehicles that don't have it at the most base model, which is the Soul, which I drive, and the Seltos.
Mm.
Um, the Seltos is like their compact SUV.
Yeah.
Think Honda CHR. Um, or no, I'm sorry, Toyota CHR.
Okay.
Um, I said Honda, Toyota CHR. And then the Soul's probably going to be discontinued soon, like the Forte. So it makes sense that it doesn't have it. But I mean, that is a lot of safety that's standard on those. And the reason we're bringing all these up is think about these as used cars,
That's right.
because also one of the reasons our listeners ask us about these the most is these are some of the most common used cars, because
Yes.
all these brands have also some of the strongest reputations for reliability. Right?
Yes.
When
Which consumers want.
Exactly. When you think about Toyota, Honda, and more recently years, Kia, Hyundai,
Yeah.
I mean, the reliability ratings are like they outrank basically
Mm-hmm.
all the American brands,
Yes.
and even their other, like, European and Japanese competitors.
Yes.
And so these are very, very common used cars because there's a lot of trust that these are mechanically going to be sound,
Yep.
provided that they were decently well taken care of by a previous owner.
Yep.
And so it's important to know, like, these are standard, now, and have been for the past few years. So these as used cars are going to be some of the, I think some of the most likely picks for, so like someone in your position, what kind of safety features do I want my newer driver to have?
Exactly.
Um,
It
the other,
it changes your thinking too, though. It definitely, like what you just said about it being standard, there may be people that already have these vehicles and don't even know some of that technology's in there.
right. And
So
so, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And yeah, there's a lot that like they might not even know that's there. The other brand that we get asked about a lot is Tesla. Maybe
Hmm.
even the most, Tesla, because putting aside any of the kind of like weirdness in how the
Yeah, as a
company
brand.
is run,
Yes.
um, Tesla has really been a pioneer in bringing, um, not just, electric vehicles mainstream, but also, a lot of safety features. And I
Right.
would say, as far as marketing, after after Mercedes-Benz Distronic Plus, Toyota Safety Sense, Honda
Mhm.
Sensing Suite, you know, um, Kia DriveWise, Subaru EyeSight is
Yeah.
what it's called. Tesla has done the best job of actually marketing their safety features,
Hmm.
because you have to market the safety features in order to bring attention to them.
Yep.
And calling it autopilot was probably the greatest like marketing name in, not automotive history, close to it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, no one goes around thinking about like, oh, Honda Sensing Suite or Kia DriveWise. I mean, they probably think about it's good that my car has these features, but they don't remember the
They
name of it.
don't.
Like,
They
but
don't.
but I have had, like, in the kind of work I've done, I've had customers ask all the time about a internal combustion gas engine car only. Does
Hmm.
it have autopilot? Not even an electric vehicle. Nothing to do with it. People have asked, does it have autopilot?
Uh-huh.
And I'm just thinking, oh my God, that's how marketing works
Oh, it works.
if you do it properly. So with Tesla, autopilot is standard on their vehicles and has been for a
Hmm.
long time. But Tesla, like many things they do, has taken a kind of different approach to it than what we are traditionally used to. And that is that you can upgrade those safety features via a subscription service. Um,
Right.
and so you can subscribe to a higher level of safety features that, my one big annoyance with Tesla, and I would caution every listener to keep this in mind. And this is where I talk about the brilliance of Tesla's marketing called autopilot, which is probably the greatest name for a set of safety features we will ever see in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Calling it autopilot was perfect. What is not so perfect and what has got them up to their eyes in lawsuits more recently has been calling their subscription service full self-driving, which it absolutely is not.
It's not. Yeah.
It probably, I would say, to their credit, it does get the closest to what can feel like a self-driving experience.
Yeah.
But it's not actual self-driving. The current legislation and regulations in the US don't allow for that. So even if you have that, don't think it is a full self-driving car. But what that does is it really just takes all these standard safety features we've been talking about, like just to another level, and it incorporates them all in a way that, it can handle steering and braking and acceleration. And where that full self-driving, quote unquote, really comes in is that it can also handle even parking lots by itself. So
yeah,
but
it can come to you, park itself. It can do lots of things.
Yeah, but it's a subscription service.
Yep.
And so and we've actually had, if you go back and look through our Features Talk episodes, we've actually had talks about subscription-based versus it coming from the factory floor. So
exactly.
Without getting into that, Tesla does have a lot of that stuff standard, but they offer a subscription service to actually upgrade it.
Yeah. Knowing and hearing about all of these features that come standard, I'm just thinking about the used car market. To me, it sounds like the sell is going to be different at this point. With those new standards in place, I mean, I'm pretty sure, and I've heard this, with people that buy used cars, they're calling the sales reps and they want more questions about software updates and how do I turn the feature off? Or can you integrate, my app? And it used to be how good is the fuel economy? It's changing. The conversation is changing. And so that makes me think that I don't know. It's a question for you, Luke. Do you think we're seeing a resale revolution? Do you think that that's something that's happening?
100%. Yes. So yeah, no, it is honestly, because
I agree.
Because again, I keep coming back to one of the biggest leaps in automotive technology was for all the things that car did rather wrong, and it did, that early 2000s BMW 7 Series, BMW just one day decided, you know what, we're just going to throw down the gauntlet and like leap ahead of everyone, and they're going to have to play catch up. Now, what that led to is, looking back at it now, not everything was done well. We have clearly learned to do so much better. But now, now we can look at it in hindsight. But again, at the time, a lot of that stuff had never even been implemented before. And back then, selling the used car, like, with the cassette player as like one of its hot features, and if you were really balling out of control, you had a CD player in the car.
Exactly.
Which in the 90s would have been wild. And
it would have.
First cars ever with CD players came out in the 80s, by the way.
That was not that long ago.
Nope. But like, if a CD player was your highest tech thing, then it's like, well, what do you do to sell a used car? Just look at its service history and
exactly.
Does the right pedal make it go, and does the left pedal make it not go? I mean,
yep. That used to be the conversation.
Yeah, and for a lot of them, is that third pedal on the left working?
Yeah, exactly.
But, but I mean, that was really it. I mean, what else is there to talk about? It was, you turn the key and turn it on.
Yeah.
And it's either moving or not moving. But now, someone selling a used car from like I'm just to make this sound more dramatic, half a decade ago, 2020.
Exactly. Right.
Isn't that weird to think half a decade is 2020?
It is.
Well, if you're selling a car from half a decade ago, well, then you're going to be looking at, okay, which cars have adaptive cruise control?
Yep.
Which have automatic emergency braking, and a lot of them will actually.
Yep.
So all these safety features that we mentioned, with Toyota, Honda, Kia, Hyundai, and then Tesla to an extent, but mainly the more, I guess, traditional brands, if we're calling them that, then like these are common used cars, and those safety features we talked about are going to be in play. So when it comes to, selling a used car, I think, and this is not like true sales advice for an actual salesperson. That's up to each individual, how they want to do it. But this is more for consumers looking for vehicles. don't go around thinking used cars are just, depending on what era you're looking at. If you're looking at anything moderately recent,
Right.
used cars are actually going to require the same kind of question asking as a brand new car would.
It sure would.
And like when you, for example, go to look for a car from 2020-ish for, for one of your sons,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to be asking them, so what about its, what about its adaptive cruise control system?
Yep.
Does its lane keep assist system have automatic steering intervention, or
Mm-hmm.
is it only a warning?
Yep.
Does its blind what at what speed does the blind spot monitoring begin working? Because those don't work down to 0 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Um, and you'll want to get in the car and see how big is the screen for the backup camera. Does
Yep.
the backup camera have those guidance lines? When the cameras, like, they'll sometimes turn
Yes.
those lines on screen.
Yes.
Well, not every car does that, and not
Yeah.
every car did that.
Yeah.
And so,
And the companion app, now that we had that just deep dive into data, now I have way more questions about that companion app in the used car market.
yeah, exactly. And so, how can you make sure that your that a previous user's companion app data is
Yes.
is not present on the vehicle, um, and that yours, or I guess your sons, will not be on there
That's right.
when you inevitably sell it as the second owner, or maybe third
Exactly.
owner or something. So again, all these questions shouldn't even come to mind if you're looking back at like a 90s car or something like that.
Yeah.
And I would say, if nowadays in 2025, if you're looking for a car back in like the 90s or something like that, or even prior, then I would say you probably don't need us to tell you what you're looking for, because you're probably looking for an enthusiast car,
Right.
for a very niche car that was only made back then.
Exactly.
Um, I would
Exactly.
say, and again, this is we're not here to offer financial advice, but I would say, don't. I understand you need to get things cheaper. That things need to be, that we all have to be budget conscious, and that older cars are less expensive. But just know that, getting into like the early 2000s, or like prior to that, like getting in the 90s, which can be like, oh, I can get this for under $1,000. You're making some incredible safety feature compromises, and so,
Yeah.
just especially if it comes to like, especially if like you're a parent, like, oh, I need to get something cheap to like carry my kid around. I would be careful of that. It's Safety features have, again, we're talking about the rising tides that raises all
Right.
boats,
Yeah.
and so don't be looking back too far,
Yeah.
just
Well, you think about
in
it
the name of a
too.
low price, right?
Yeah, you think about it too, also from just the maintenance of an older vehicle. Being able
Yeah.
to maintain it, and the parts being sold. I mean, we're moving too much into technology to where, even like, and we talked about this previously, even the mom and pop repair shops, they are now having to be retrained when it comes to taking care of vehicles. That's even if the manufacturer allows them to take care of it. That's a whole nother subject that I've just, become privy to with some of the laws around the technologies where, the manufacturers, those cars are only able to be serviced at their dealers and with
Oh
their,
yeah.
technicians, because of the severity of the risk of, not properly recalibrating a technology, which could cost a life. But, it makes me be reminded that consumers are now coming into the dealer way more knowledgeable. I feel like,
Yeah. Yeah.
before they were doing, history about the car, has it been into an accident before? But now they're pulling reports, and the vehicle history reports are including the ADAS features and the functionalities of that and the functioning of that. And so they're coming into the dealer a little bit more knowledgeable. And so
Yeah.
that's, putting, it's like throwing that ball back to the dealer, like, okay, how are you going to keep up with this? How are you going to keep up with having more knowledgeable consumers about technology, and these questions that you brought up that are now being asked in the used dealer space? How are they, keeping up with that? And it'll be interesting to see what that change looks like in the used car market.
Yeah, yeah, and that change has been going on, because, like I said, a car from a half a decade ago is a 2020 vehicle,
Yeah.
and that is going to be one that is, depending on the model, that could be fairly competent as far as its safety features.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that, for just for listeners to keep in mind, if you're looking for a used car, um, obviously each individual car is different, and each individual person has their own circumstances. We can't give advice on how much should you spend, should you get new or used, or that's
Right.
we're not in a position to do that. what we like to do with our Features Talk podcast is just make sure that you know what is out there, what questions you should be asking. And in the spirit of that, a kind of, I would say, I guess kind of a piece of like umbrella advice that I personally would give to a lot of people is, if you know I don't want to get a new car. It's too expensive. It hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been proven. I know not wanting to pay for the depreciation on a new car is a big thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So then, okay, if used car is the pick, well, now that opens up an even wider jungle
Mm-hmm.
of selection. A kind of good umbrella piece of advice I would give is that a good balance is to find one that is a certified pre-owned vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have probably heard the term CPO. That is often, it's often abbreviated as CPO. Stands for certified pre-owned. So
Yep.
it's a pre-owned vehicle. It's not brand new, but it has somehow been certified either by the manufacturer itself
Mm-hmm.
or by a third party company. Um, and this is something you'll find at certain dealers. This would be a really good thing to look at. Now, a CPO used vehicle
Mm-hmm.
will likely be a little more expensive than
Right.
if you were to take that exact same vehicle and have it not be CPO,
Right.
not be certified pre-owned. But I would really strongly consider that if you have that kind of choice in front of you, I would really consider the CPO, because a certified pre-owned vehicle nowadays means
Mm-hmm.
that it's not that they just said, does the gas and brake work, and
Right.
well, that's that, and is it not leaking oil?
Yeah.
Now, for a car to be certified pre-owned, like it's like they pull they pull the codes on the ECU to
Mm-hmm.
see, like, which is the electronic control unit or the engine control
Yep.
unit, to see, like, the timings of like the cylinders in the past,
Yeah.
and also codes related to those ADAS features.
That's right.
Um, what is the calibration on all these features? So a CPO vehicle, or a certified pre-owned vehicle, is actually a pre-owned vehicle that has already had its new car depreciation, you know,
Mm-hmm.
taken
Mm-hmm.
away from it. Um, but it has been inspected and verified like a new car would be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something to consider. If anyone's listening that's looking for a used car, really look for a CPO, and ask dealers about what do you have as far as certified pre-owned vehicles, and if they do, how are they certified? Like, which company certifies them? What is the process?
Yeah, that's a great tip. That actually, feeds into our listener question. We have the awesome opportunity to get some questions from our listeners, which is really nice because we want to make sure that, we're bringing some valuable content to you guys, and you can walk away with some tips on how to apply it in real life. And so this is a person asking from the perspective of the buyer. So if you're
Okay.
buying a used car with lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control, do you test it like a tech demo, or do you just trust it blindly? Because how many times do we go to the used car dealer? We'll do the around the block um, test,
Right.
and test out the car, but I don't know if we're really getting into the technology questions or the ADAS questions. So should they just trust that blindly, or should they really be asking those questions and testing that as well?
Um, so I would say, um, just from it feels weird to say, like, from working as a product specialist for almost 7 years now, which feels weird, but like I kind of have been. It's like, where did that
Yes.
time go?
Yeah.
How have I been a product specialist longer than I was in high school? Like, where did that
That
time
just
go?
means that you're a genius at this point, Luke.
I know. How about that? But it's been like, you know, it's been, gosh, what has to be like thousands of customers now.
Yeah.
Um, and to be clear, I've never been a salesperson. I've been a
Hmm.
product
Hmm.
specialist, right? So I never actually closed a car deal, but like,
Yeah.
but but because of that, it's been on me to do a lot of the test drives with customers. And so, which I love. That's one of my favorite
Yes.
things to do. I love getting into this kind of stuff. And so I would say the bottom line of any test drive is test out is come in, first of all, knowing what are your most important things you want to know about.
Right.
Um, I would say, just as someone who's been on the other end, on like the car dealer's end, don't it's the best customers are the ones that come in already kind of knowing like what questions they want to ask. It's okay. It's okay to come in not knowing anything, and just like tell me about this car. I've never heard of it.
Mm.
Um, there's nothing wrong with that. It's good to get information in person. Um, but if you know, okay, I want to go and test drive this car, you know, there's plenty of research that you can do, before you get there, and I would generally recommend that. Know what questions you want to ask, and then I would say the bottom line of any test drive is it's good to test as many things as you can, as you
Mm-hmm.
reasonably can, regardless of any specific safety features. Um, Now, what this listener was asking about is what they brought up is lane keep assist and adaptive cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a lot more safety features than that in a
Mm-hmm.
modern
Mm-hmm.
car, but that just happens to be the ones that they asked about. So I would say lane keep assist, absolutely, I would test it.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be hard to find a street that has a couple of consistent painted lines on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most dealers are located in areas that are fairly urban and have plenty of streets and stuff like that. So obviously some dealers are very rural,
Right.
um but at least coming to you all from Southern California, we have a lot of most our dealers are in pretty urban areas, and I most of our listeners are in similar areas. And so um definitely test lane keep assist. Make sure you ask, okay, how do I turn it on? How do I,
Mm-hmm.
configure it like to, and does it, like I said, does it have automatic steering?
Yep.
And then find some lanes and then, yeah, and then see what it does. See it, does it change an icon to change?
Yeah.
Um, so that I would absolutely test. Because I don't, you don't have to do anything. I would say for a test drive, it's not your car. It's not
Right.
a car that you're used to, but you don't have to do anything really different than you would in your normal drive,
Right.
right? Like you're still driving in between lane lines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be reasonable to test that because you
Yeah.
were already going to be driving on the street with lane
Exactly.
lines.
Exactly.
So it's good that they brought that up. Adaptive cruise control. Now that one is a little bit, I don't want to say difficult,
Mm-hmm.
but that is a very case by case basis. Not every dealer lets cars be test driven on the
Right.
freeway.
Yeah, I thought
Um,
about that too when I saw that question.
and so if fully adaptive cruise control is something that you absolutely prioritize, whatever it is, I would forego a stereo, I would forego dual zone climate control. I
Mm-hmm.
would just but give me adaptive cruise. Whatever. I don't even care if the car's a color I don't like, give me adaptive cruise control.
Yeah.
Well, for that, if the dealer just doesn't allow test drives on the freeway, which is where your adaptive cruise control is going to be
Mm-hmm.
used,
Mm-hmm.
then I would ask them, um, how can I test adaptive cruise control? Because this is the hot button thing that will make me buy or not buy a car.
Yep. Yep.
And it would not be out of your place I assume the person asking this is, maybe looking at this through the lens of a customer. Um, Maybe right now, if you're looking at this as a customer, you are not out of place by saying, I really need to say politely, of course, but like I need to test this feature. This will determine whether I buy the car or not. And if I cannot test this feature, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Um, and so then maybe they'll ask you. I did this for a customer one time. I had one of my coworkers
Mm-hmm.
um go with the customer on a test drive, and I brought out another vehicle to drive ahead of them,
Mm.
but not on the freeway.
Mm.
And so I had my coworker show them, okay, here's how to do the adaptive cruise control in the car, and I was actually on the phone with them, like
Right.
on speakerphone, so the customer could hear us talking and say, okay, now I'm going to slow down here and watch what the car does.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. Now, not every dealer is going to
Right.
do that, and I think I could classify that as bending over backwards to help a customer because you know like
But
getting
that's what makes you
and
one of the
so
best product specialists that I've come across. And
well
that,
thank you.
no, and I say that because that will become the standard as these technologies advance, where you can't just let the customer drive off the lot blindly, not showing them what's in the car. Yeah, adaptive cruise control is one of those things that has been around for years, right? So we know kind of how it works, but it's really like the buttons and then how to how to set all of the controls and things like that. But when you start to think about lane keep assist, when you start to think about a little bit more of these advanced blind spot monitoring, and then getting into like facial recognition, because some of these technologies
Mm,
are now being federally mandated because of the collisions that are happening with DUIs, driving under the influence. So now you're going to have these technologies that can measure your face and if your eyes are drifting away, if you're turning left or right. And
Yep.
so that kind of level of technology, we will need a Luke. We will need like a bunch of Luke around, to take that time to show us. So I love that you did that for a customer.
Yeah, yeah, and then, so that is something where, if you can test it, then great. And again,
Yeah,
if the dealer lets you drive it on the freeway, then you say like, okay, I'm doing this. You make sure you're clear with them, with the dealer representative, because the freeway is inherently a little bit riskier.
exactly.
Say to them, this is really to test out the adaptive cruise control,
Yeah,
because this is the thing that will decide whether I buy a car or not. And so thank you for letting me try it on the freeway. Um, and so if they let you do that, then great, then do it. I would recommend try out adaptive cruise control. Um,
that's great advice. I like how you told her first to call, right? So we can't speak for a dealer, but you can as a customer say, listen, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I need to test. And then that dealer will hopefully have the level of customer service like Luke had with that customer, because that's really
yeah,
what it's going to take to make sure that we are reducing the risk of technology misuse. And as ADAS becomes standard, it levels the playing field, but it also raises the stakes. It
mhm,
raises the stakes. And so it's not just about, if your car has the tech, it's about if you, as the driver, knows how to use it and trust it. And part of that whole process of knowing how to use it and trust it, it doesn't just involve the driver. It involves the dealer. It involves the manufacturer. It now
yep,
involves the government. There are so many different hands that are involved in that process. And so we are focused on making sure we get to the drivers. Listen, we have a responsibility too. So if there's something you don't know how to use, you can call the dealer, right? Or hopefully your dealer would be able to partner with a company like Features First, where we develop training for drivers, and we make it available to them on demand. And so I love this episode. I think we covered some really good golden nuggets for our listeners. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to share it with someone. Subscribe and leave us a review. Leave a comment. Let us know that you are enjoying these episodes, and catch us on our next episode. And until next time, drive
drive safe.
safely.